Hello, everybody, and welcome to the LFC Transfer Room live stream with myself, Menti, and Dan. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we get into it. We are very, very close to our 10,000 subscribers goal. We are only 80 subscriptions away currently at the moment, so please make sure to like and subscribe. Just try and help us get that 10,000 goal. We have Damo coming out with a new poem again. He promised one earlier on in the season when the transfer window ended and you guys got one, and now he promises another one when we get to 10,000 subscriptions. So let's hope to try and get there and get that from him, because I really want to listen to that. Also, just make sure that you have your notifications on for all future streams and videos. We're going to be trying something new. We're going to try a watch along on Sunday. It'll be myself hosting that watch along. So please feel free to join in on that and watch as we absolutely batter Arsenal off the pitch, which will be definitely not a jinx that I've just put on them now, but we move. Again, just make sure you have the notifications on for all future streams videos so you don't miss out. But without further ado, we shall get into some of the news today, which is injuries. Unfortunately, with Liverpool missing a number of their players currently at the moment, with the likes of Dominic Szoboszlai out with injury. Then obviously we have the two main ones that never seem to be off the injury list in Thiago Alcantara, and we also have Stefan Bajcetic, who still remains out injured at the moment. Then we have a number of other issues with the likes of Joel Matip, a very good senior centre-back. And then we have two major players that have brought a lot of stability to the team leaving as well in Endo and Mo Salah. Dan, is it a worry for you with us sort of hitting injuries at this point in time? We've maybe bitten the injury bug a little bit at a fairly pinnacle point of the season. Do you think this is kind of make or break over the next 4 to 5 weeks with people gone and other people having to fill in?
No, because most of the injuries people are coming back from. So, like Tsimikas, we don't know when Tsimikas is going to be back fully playing yet, but we know Robertson will probably be back by the end of January, early February. Szoboszlai, from the press conference, it seems that, they said, yes, it's hamstring, definitely not the next 2 games, but we'll see after that. He's already saying that he doesn't feel any pain, which, part of hamstring and muscle injuries is just like pain management more than, actual damage to the muscle. And Dom was saying like, oh no, I feel fine, which, he probably would say that, but, we crack on. We're actually kind of in a good moment right now. That's still one of Jurgen's isms. And the fact that the only 2 players that really have been long-term injuries is Thiago and Bajcetic, and Bajcetic is growth-related, and Thiago he just hasn't been fit all year, and Matip, who we know is going to be out for the season with knee injury. So in terms of like actual injuries to the players we have, we actually probably have the luckiest and also they're evenly dispersed apart from left back, but both of our left backs are probably back sooner rather than later.
Yeah, well, look, Paul says here, keep fit. Thiago's just 4 months away. We'll see him soon in a different fucking jersey, but yeah, we'll probably see him soon. I agree with you, Paul. Jen, as always, you're really, really, really helping us fund this Mbappe fund that we're looking for $9.99 there. Thank you so much. It's very much appreciated. As always, Jen, you're an absolute superstar, and we very much appreciate you. It all goes back towards the channel and making content for you guys. But again, thank you so much, Jen. It's very much appreciated. Menti, are you of a similar opinion to Dan? You feel like there's players coming back to replace the players that are leaving, like some McAllister coming back, who played minutes the last game and made that absolutely beautiful pass to Diogo Jota for his penalty shout, which it was a penalty for anybody that has a brain on their shoulders, or the likes of Beck being called back from Dundee to fill in at left back a little bit, and we have Joe Gomez putting in a major shift there. And as Jen mentions, Nat Phillips is back, so we're all saved. Any man that can do a Cruyff turn on Zlatan Ibrahimovic and send him to the shops, I think he's absolutely needs to be in this starting lineup. But are you worried at all that this seems to be probably a make or break particular moment of the season? Like, it's a fairly congested fixture list between now and the end of January, and we could be missing some players between now and then. As Dan mentioned, we don't know when Kostas is coming back, but he seems to be putting weight on those shoulders, which isn't indicative of a collarbone injury. What do you think? Are you worried? Are you not so worried? Are you in the same boat as Dan at the moment?
I'm in a similar boat as Dan. I just feel like we have I guess you could say squad depth, just because we do have a lot of players coming back. I feel like it's just time for players like Gravenberch to step it up, because I know he hasn't been doing too well recently. And then Elliot's going to get more playing time. Maka's going to be back. I'm really not too worried about it just because we've been rotating a lot this year. That's why you could say out of like all the big 6 teams, we don't have like that starting 11 set yet. So that's why I'm not just too worried about it yet. And in terms of like Beck coming back, Nat Phillips coming back, yeah, you could just rule out us signing a left back this window.
Yeah, it is an interesting one. I still think we'll probably sign a centre back before we sign a left back because we have obviously Robertson coming back and Tsimikas just seems to be Iron Man. His injury hasn't seemed to have hurt him at all. I think he possibly just pulled something or maybe a muscle strain. I don't know what it is realistically. It's a funny one. As Zia mentions here that we seem to be a little bit short in midfield. We've 5 fit players and been rotating them all season. If we weren't rotating them, I think we could have had less, to be perfectly honest. Szoboszlai is missing 2 cup games, one of which is of 2 legs. I'm not necessarily worried about him missing all that time. We have Curtis Jones, we have Harvey Elliott. We have some of the younger kids coming in that will be able to play in those cup games, I think. And Paul points out here, as you mentioned, it's giving him his year off to let the body grow, as Klopp says. I think it's the exact same thing. And Endo's surgeons kind of has probably helped that as well, in my opinion. I think we'll see Batisic back in the preseason of next year. I think it's better to let him rest and not get these stress injuries. But Menti, would you rather him back this year or would you rather rest him? What do you think?
I feel like the way the coaching staff, we can fully trust him with this process, but I could see him possibly playing it like towards the end of the season. It doesn't look like they're in a rush. If you look at like any other training videos, you see he's still eating with the team, so he's still in the facility. And Endo's been great, so I don't really see the need for him to be rushed back, but I think he'll play before next year, maybe like the last 5-10 games.
What do you think, Dan? Similar opinion? Do you think we won't see him this year? Or do you think maybe he might make a guest appearance during the year?
I mean, we're just gonna have to. I think it really depends on like what the medical staff say. You know, as far as we're aware from the news coming from Liverpool and Klopp and the medical staff, the information we're privy to is that it is mostly growth related, meaning he can play a game, and like he said, like he can go play a game tomorrow, but then he'll be out for 4 to 5 weeks because of stress related issues with his growth and everything else. So I think they're just going to essentially take it. If he, again, like Minty said, if he plays, it would definitely be like the last handful of games. And honestly, I don't even know if he would play then. He might be on the bench. I would see it's more likely he's on the bench and maybe gets like 5 to 10 minutes and just kind of eases his way back in. Because if the season goes the way we're expecting it, you know, we could be in a situation where, you know, we're neck and neck with City for the title. We have a Europa League final coming up and potentially maybe even an FA Cup final coming up as well. So you would want him around the squad, but you probably don't want to risk playing him just to re-injure him. I'm trying to remember who else had like really bad growth a couple years. Cade Gordon had those. I think Curtis had a couple growth injuries related as well last year or a year and a half ago as well. So this is not something new with some of our players, especially our midfielders, because of how much running they do. I imagine that, you know, when they're growing through the growing phase and they're becoming young men, like it's much heavier on the bodies than like Jarrell Kwanzaa, who already looks like a minted 27-year-old center back with like 300 caps and like 5 medals at this point. But yeah, I would expect him, like Minty said, to play until the end of the year, and hopefully he doesn't have to play. You know, I don't really want to be in a situation where we have to be throwing, you know, Stefan Bajcetic into the team with all the other players we still have kicking around the squad at the moment, and the players that will probably play Sunday and Wednesday.
Yeah, I don't think we'll see him back personally. I would rather sacrifice his year this year to allow his body to grow and sign an elderly. I say elderly. I'm nearly the same age as some of these guys that are getting signed. Sign an elderly, a more seasoned statesman, we'll call it, to be more flattering to myself. Of what I think he's just done for the year, and I don't think it's of his own fault. I think it's more we need to wait and let him grow into his body to avoid the likes of the stuff that's happened to Gavi, Pedri, even Rasmus Højlund. and what's happened to Amrabat as well with all these stress fractures that are in their body from working too hard while it's malleable and growing, and that just causes absolute hilarious issues. I don't think he'll be as tall as Peter Crouch. I think he's already he's what, 6'2", 6'3"?
Yeah, he's about 6'2", I think, at the moment. He's probably 6'2", 6'3" by the time he is done growing.
Yeah,
I think he's like 6'1"-ish.
Yeah,
I think that was the last time they measured him, but I think because he is growing, it'll probably be like Curtis, where it went from 5'10", 5'11" to 6'1".
Yeah.
Like he grew
I think I'm nearly sure I looked it up myself just out of sheer curiosity because I thought I got taller myself. I think a man's body doesn't stop growing until you're about 25, thereabouts. So he could very easily grow another inch or two and then fill out on top of it and just be an absolute monster, which I would not be upset about myself, to be perfectly honest. But I think both mine and Dan's cats will come on and make an appearance once we hit 10k, and we'll just leave them on the stream and let them look at each other and hopefully not have a fight. But Jenna's asking, Dan, is a cat? Why is the cat not on the stream? And is it called Kev? Is the cat called Kev or is it called?
No, I have two cats. They're both ragdolls. One's called Cleo. One's called Nile. I'm named after Cleopatra and Nile because my wife's Egyptian. And she's like, what are the two most Egyptian names I can name two cats? And so she went with Cleo. Yeah, Cleo and Nile.
You really couldn't have hit the nail more on the head if you called one of them Sphinx. Like, Jesus.
No, that was too much. That would have been too much, though. But yeah, they're sweet, but they're off bathing in the sun because it's like 1 degree Celsius up here, and we're getting snow. We're getting a lot of snow Saturday and Sunday. About 12 inches of snow, I think, is actually about now. Not named after the album. Not named after the album by the famous reggae Canadian rapper named Snow. The song Informer. Flashback for the kids.
It's just dark and miserable and wet here at the moment. It's horrible. I don't like this time of year in Ireland myself. But sure, look, speaking of Ireland and speaking of Irish weather, it's something that Pitaluga is going to have to get very used to, considering he has just signed on loan with St. Patrick's Athletic. The 21-year-old 6'4" Liverpool goalkeeper has now joined the Irish side for the League of Ireland season that will be starting in the next couple of weeks. I am myself. I'm in the town on the west coast called Sligo Town, so they will be playing in Sligo Town on May the 4th or 5th, May the 6th, one of them days, I think. So I will be going and seeing Pitaluga perform in that game, and I cannot wait for it. Should be good. But realistically, it's a good move for him. I think he needs first team minutes. It's not the first time we've sent a keeper there. We sent Jaros there back in 2001. He had a fairly productive spell, so I'm liking that. I'm liking this move for him. It allows him a lot of first team minutes in, albeit a decent league in Europe, especially at his age. Dan, you know a little bit about the League of Ireland, just very, very, very minusculely, but like it's you know that it's similar to the Scottish League in that they played each other multiple times in a season. Is this the right move for Marcelo Pitaluga, or do you feel like he should have stuck with the first team for a little bit longer?
The answer to the first one at the beginning of the season, I would have said yes if he was going to get game time and if Caoimhín Kelleher had left. And I believe that's how you say it, right? Caoimhín? Caoimhín. My Gaelic is not that good, sadly. He hasn't had Pitaluga hasn't had that many appearances. His last loan move was to Macclesfield, and I think it was I don't know if that was the remade team or the team that went under. And I think it's a good move for him because obviously if he's playing the Irish League, he's probably going to get game time because he's probably better than most of the goalkeepers. No insult to the Irish League's quality because Evan Ferguson came from there, and there's obviously good players in the Irish League that are being overlooked, except by Brighton and possibly Brentford. Yeah, no, it's a great move for him. I think they rate Jaros ahead of him and Kelleher as well. And until they figure out what they want to do with Jaros, Davies, Kelleher, I feel like the Pitaluga they're kind of keeping in their back pocket. Like this might be the one that they have their eye on to play next.
Yeah,
but they want to figure out their other goalkeepers first, especially Harvey Davies. I think Harvey Davies is actually very, very underrated. Very, very underrated player. I see someone hit. JMU's asks, is it a tiny club? Most Irish clubs are very small. JMU's they're not. They're all tiny. That's not, the size doesn't matter. It's the game time that matters.
To put it on par, it'd probably be similar to League One or Two in the UK. That'd probably be to put it on the most par. It'd be below the Championship in quality. I say in quality, but in team size. But there's clearly talent that's there. Like you had the likes of Seamus Coleman that came over from Ireland to Everton. Then you had the likes of, obviously, from Cork City, you had Caoimhín Kelleher. And then you also had multiple other players. Roy Keane started in Cork. You had Robbie Keane. You had Damien Duff that played for Chelsea. Players of a bygone era, but still some there. James McLean, someone of a more recent ilk. But it's St. Patrick's Athletic would be one of the bigger clubs in Dublin. It'd be one of three of the big clubs in Dublin. There'd be St. Patrick's Athletic, there'd be Shamrock Rovers, and then there would be Bohemians. They'd be the three big clubs in Dublin. Shamrock Rovers, Bohemians would be the biggest, so to speak. They're the team that sold Evan Ferguson onto Brighton with a 10% sell-on clause, which was absolutely genius business by them, because if Evan Ferguson goes for the same price as Caicedo, which I think he'll go for more, because of that sell-on clause, Bohemians will get the equivalent of winning the League of Ireland 106 times from that one signing.
Sheesh.
So that's how a lot of the Irish clubs do business. They find these absolute gems and then sell them with sell-on clauses on the cheap, and then that funds them for decades. But Menti, do you think this is a good move for Marcelo? Do you think he needs game time? Like, the League of Ireland league runs over the summer period, meaning that he will be basically, if we wanted to pull him back next season, he would already have a season of football basically into him, and he could be on a bit of a roll. So do you think it's a good move for him, and how he would work over there? I said over here.
No, it's very good, just because we already have Kelleher at second. So for him being that young, and he's very good. If you look at any of like the training videos, he's always impressing first team players. So I could see him being the future. And like you said, they did give him a contract before they sent him out too, so they do believe in him. So for development, it's always good to send out a young goalkeeper. I could see him being the successor. He's just very young, so we'll see how it goes. But I think it's very good for his development.
Yeah, and with goalkeepers, you always break in late too. Like Alisson really did become like breakthrough too. He's like 25, and that was before he even got ahead of like Wojciech Szczesny. And if we think about like people thought Szczesny was better than Alisson when he was at Roma for like I think a season and a half too. So there's no rush with Pitaluga or any of these young goalkeepers to like start now. They can definitely start when like they're in their like 23, 24, or 25, because a goalkeeping career lasts until like I guess you just get too fat to move.
I agree.
Yeah. This baffles me as well, how we gave Adrian a new contract at 60k a week. That man is robbing the living. Like I don't understand how it's working. But it's an interesting one, realistically. Paul has mentioned a question here, and I think it's a good one to move on to before we move on to some other topics, is with Salah away, who's going to take the penalties now when we get to Sunday? Will it be Darwin? Will it be McAllister? Will it be Trent? Will it be Virgil? Will it be Dominic Szoboszlai when he comes back from his injury in 2 games' time? Is there a particular person that you would like to take penalties? I think it should be either Trent, Darwin, or Dominic Szoboszlai. I don't have a particular order on them. I know Nunez has not missed a penalty out of 13 that he's taken, the last 13. I know Dominic Szoboszlai has missed 1 out of 17, and I don't know exactly what Trent's one is, but if he can ping a free kick in from 30 yards out, I think he can ping it into the top corner from 12 yards out, and that's just my own opinion on it. I think he's the power and the technique to do it. Menti, do you have a particular person that you'd like to step in and start taking these penalty kicks, or is it somebody other than who I've mentioned?
I agree with the 3 you mentioned, but I think it's most likely going to be Darwin. I see a lot of people in the comments, just saying, "Oh, he's not in goal scoring form." Well, the best way to get him in that form is to give him penalties, like you said back in the day,
like free throws, freebies.
Yeah, exactly. It's freebies. So, like, I remember, I think it might have been preseason when, Virgil held it, and everyone thought Virgil was going to take it, but he gave it to Darwin. I just think it's going to be Darwin. You got to give it to the striker.
Yeah. Did Darwin score that pin in preseason, or did he miss it? I don't remember.
He scored it in preseason, and he also scored another one in Europa.
Europa, that's what it was.
Okay, the Europa, that's what I was trying to remember. I kind of forgot about the Europa League, if I'm being completely honest. Like, it all kind of happened, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna forget about this now.
Well, we can forget about it until March. We don't play another game until March. I think those fixtures get announced towards the end of February, and then the first or second week of March, they get the fixtures start happening then. But I'll throw the same question to yourself, Dan. Is there a particular person outside of who we've mentioned that you'd like on penalties? We've mentioned Nunez, we've mentioned Dominic Szoboszlai, we've mentioned Trent as well. Do you like to see maybe Verge, Alexi McAllister, anybody else like that?
McAllister, yes, because he has a pretty good pin record and he took pins from Brighton, so I feel like it's just between Szoboszlai, McAllister, and Darwin. It's just an order of who's on the pitch at the time, which they have a list of pin takers who's going to take. And honestly, I think the only reason they keep Salah on them is because Klopp doesn't really change that order. Salah's been in his recent pin form hasn't been that great. But before that, he was really good. He just kicked him really hard, but then he kind of went into a slump where I think he's missed. He's only scored 4 out of 9 or 5 out of 9. He's missed
4.
Yeah. So that's a 50% pin ratio is not good. That's Lionel Messi levels of not good. Because Messi is also not a good pin taker, statistically speaking, compared to everybody else. I think McAllister would be a good shout. I actually wouldn't mind seeing Gakpo taking one if he was in the field too, because I feel like Gakpo just has such a good technique when it comes to kicking the ball that he can just kick into any corner and probably do very well. I don't think Verge, as much as I love Verge's PK against Kepa a couple years ago, which is still which should have ended Kepa Aretha Balaga's career as a goalkeeper. The fact that he cheated to the right and still guessed left and got beat. I think the obvious option here is probably going to be Darwin or Szoboszlai. Will probably be the ones that take it, just depending on fitness, form, and who's starting it on the pitch. But I would also say, so I think it would probably be Gakpo after that because he did take pins from the Netherlands.
Yeah, actually, it's an interesting one.
Actually, Van Dijk takes it over Gakpo if you watch the last games.
Oh yeah, because I think they might mix it up because Verge is still the captain for Netherlands, isn't he?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Something that Jamie's mentions here as well is the price on Ivan Toney, 100 million. They are in fucking dreamland if Brentford think they're going to get 100 million for Ivan Toney, who hasn't played a bit of football in the past 6 months. I don't know how they think they're going to get that, but I have full convinced that Arsenal are going to be stupid enough to try and pay it.
Well, Bayern Munich have bought Eric Dyer for less than £5 million, so crazy, which is £5 million.
They were in for Paulinho for €60 million. Of course, they have money.
So here's the thing. So they actually have an agreement with Fulham to they still have a verbal agreement with Fulham for the winter.
Yeah, but they just don't want to pay 60 million.
Exactly, because his price drops in the summer. So there might be a pre-agreement where Bayern buy him now, but he doesn't actually come to Bayern until the summer, one of those pre-side agreements that Bayern like to do. They sound like Lewandowski or Götze in January, then they play 4 months and they come to Bayern.
Exactly. Jamie mentions here Chelsea versus Arsenal on a bidding war for Toney, and I would love if Chelsea took that war all the way to the end, purely because that would dig them even further into a financial hole, because everybody's getting absolutely rinsed with financial slaps now. And we also have the date for Man City's trial has been scheduled for later on in the year. I believe it was August sometime. That needs to be televised because it'll be watched more than the OJ trial, in my own opinion.
I don't know. I think the Epstein files is going to take over that when someone starts live streaming, reading through that. That's going to be
100%.
I don't think that's a topic we need to get into at the moment.
No, listen, you never know. Arteta and Pep may be on there. We never know.
Oh, Arteta's definitely on that list. Not even a joke about it. That man.
Callum Hudson-Odoi had to come and specify that he wasn't on that list.
That was a fake list.
Yeah, I seen that.
I know. It was funny though, Minty. That was funny.
It was funny. I'm not gonna.
I can't believe you actually had to come out and deny that. That's hilarious. Oh, but we digress. Jen, the Kev files. That's what I want.
No,
we do love it. Oh God, we do love it.
But it is bankrupt.
Yeah, if that's the case, we'll go bankrupt with Kevin. No, we joke. But something that I do want to get into is some contract talk, because it was a topic of conversation in the group chat over the Christmas period, of who's on what and how it's probably criminal for them to be on those particular amounts. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to quickly take this brand off and I'm going to share this page. So if you bear with me just 2 moments, we'll go this and then we'll add this to the stage and we have it here. So what you can see there is a page called Capology, right? And this has all of Liverpool's current players and their signings and their salaries. Now, the ones that have green on it are ticked and verified. The ones that don't are essentially speculation, but in and around the ballpark are probably about the right figure. Obviously, we know we had confirmation early on in the year that Alexis McAllister is going to be on 150 grand a week. So that's not exactly that. But when we start moving down the list, you start seeing some very interesting people down here. And I'm just going to circle one particular one here in Curtis Jones being on £15,000 a week. Harvey Elliott on 40, Salah and Endo on 50, and Luis Diaz on 55,000. All earning less than Adrian. And Caoimhín Kelleher 10 grand a week. Caoimhín Kelleher and Harvey Elliott and Curtis Jones earn combined 5 grand more than Adrian per week.
Crazy.
That is absolutely bonkers. And with how this is, it's an interesting one. Menti, does anybody on that list jump out at you at the moment of either how much or how little they earn, given how they've been performing in the squad?
I would say the only one would be just Luis Diaz, just because initially when we got him. But like in terms of Curtis and all those dudes, they're very young. They have to make their way through the team, so they're going to get rewarded with contracts, I think, at the end of the season. But yeah, no, Luis Diaz at 55K is crazy. I didn't know that.
Think so as well.
That is crazy.
And his deal doesn't end until 2027, so it's 4 years away. Well, 3 years away now, as it is. Dan, does anybody jump out to you as too much or too little on this list? I know one jumps out at me as way too much right now.
Well, if you're thinking the same thing I'm thinking, I think it's Gravenberch being 150. I think that's, I mean, I was surprised it would be that high, but then you see like all the other mids he was bought with, McAllister and Soboslai, they're all kind of around the same price. Yeah. And I mean, obviously his recent performance has been great, but I think that's down to mostly the fact that the team has kind of started to settle into their roles and Gravenberch is still learning a lot. So before, when everything was a bit new and fresh, he looked the best part because everyone was kind of still figuring everything out. Now that everyone's kind of figured out their roles, Gravenberch still figuring out his role. He looks like the lost sheep in the headlights at the moment, but that's not a knock against like his quality as a player, as you know, we've seen at times throughout the games. But I think his is definitely over at the moment. But I believe he signed a 5-year contract because on the thing says it was 1 year, which I don't think is accurate.
No, it's not. I'm nearly sure that has yet to be fully confirmed as of yet.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure he's on a 5-year contract. So you know, if you think about like Gravenberch at 5 years for 150, we are probably not going to renegotiate. I think you can. I think that that's probably a pretty good salary.
Yeah, it's future proof of the salary essentially.
Yeah, but I do worry that I think in the next round of negotiations. Well, I don't think Curtis will ask for too much, but I think Curtis is going to be closer to Joe Gomez, Joe Matip levels of money.
I think he'd be on 100K. I think he'd be. I think he'd be between 70 and 100K.
Yeah.
Okay, to be honest, I think he deserves it.
I mean, I do. I do too, because he redid his contract. I think 2 years ago. Would it be 2 years ago now? He did his contract. But he hadn't played as much. But obviously was still a very talented player at the time with all his bumper contracts. Yeah, I could see him doing that, but also I don't think he would push that hard for 100K. I think if he gets 100K, it's probably not a base salary. It's probably the base salary is like 85, with bonuses and everything. It goes up to like 100.
Yeah, we see like with Soboslai and McAllister as well. Like, fair enough that Gravenberch is earning similar amounts or more, but they both have bonuses too. So that kind of evens that out too. Gravenberch doesn't. So realistically, Dominic Soboslai's bonus will push him over Gravenberch, and McAllister's will push him up beyond Trent, like that kind of a way. So you have those two. I think, as you said, this is future proofing. One that absolutely baffles me of why he's still on the team and he hasn't just been fired from a cannon yet. And I love him to bits. When he's on his game, he's one of the best technical midfielders that has ever graced the Premier League. But Thiago, I like £10.5 million a year being thrown at a hospital bill.
It's a crime right there.
Like I get it.
come
I
on.
love him.
No,
I
no,
love him. I
Yeah,
do. The quality is not to be questioned. Do not mistake me for this. The quality is not to be questioned in any way, shape, or form. However, being on that wage and being made of breadsticks is criminal. It's his hip injury that just continues to get worse, and where I don't think we'll ever see him in a Liverpool jersey again. And to be perfectly honest, I've soured towards him because of it, and it's not his fault, and that's what probably makes it angrier about it, because I can't blame him. It's not him going out and like smashing his hip against the kitchen counter and coming back into Klopp limping, being like, oh, I can't play, and sitting on the unemployment line for 200 grand a week. It's not that at all. I think he wants to play. I just think his body's given up on him, and I thought it was a funny signing at the time, but when he was on his day, he absolutely unlocked that midfield and was the best player in the league in a lot of instances. But I think it's long before time that he gets out and he gets fired essentially from a cannon, because realistically that is shocking. One that surprises me on the lower end is how a Premier League backup goalkeeper can be earning 10 grand a week. And maybe I'm biased because he's Irish, but that's shocking to me. Realistically. That's absolutely shocking.
You said the gray one's not verified yet, so
it's not 100% verified, but it's not like it hasn't been confirmed by legitimate sources. But it's more or less probably in a ballpark figure, like $500,000. Like I know we're talking silly money, and it's money that none of us will probably ever see in our life. But like $500K a year to be a backup Premier League goalkeeper for Liverpool, I think is a bit of a crime in itself. And I think he probably is just going to be spending the next 3 years on that contract and then going and getting a big deal elsewhere. As we said, goalkeepers seem to peak a little bit later in life, but it's an interesting one to look at realistically. The other person that we need to sort of talk about is, I know we don't want to talk about it because we know we've been through the Bellingham saga, but Kylian Mbappe. Now, the question I want to pose to people is, where do we think he would fall into this wage structure? Would he be fucking up here?
He'd be 350, 400 easily. Like,
yeah.
And I think that's if they sign a pre-contract with them. I mean, that's not even including like bonuses and everything else. But if you're going to save money on a transfer fee, then if you're going to spend like 400, that's what 20 million a year.
Thereabouts, yeah.
Yeah, on a 3-year contract. I mean, I don't think that's like the worst potential free transfer.
Well, considering you're also going to be freeing up 10 million of that from getting rid of Thiago. So
that's if they don't sign Thiago to a 1-year extension.
Yeah, I don't think it would be 200.
Genuinely, if they do, like, he's 32, he's not going to be getting any fitter. He's not playing. He hasn't played in 12 months. Like, get rid of him. I like it. We need to stop being this sentimental club. Like, that's why we kept Henderson for too long, and then he was gone too long at that point and gone too long in the tooth. It's just, that's 10 million on a wage roll, that half of that could be given and alleviate. So essentially, if you use girl math, we're only spending 10 million on Mbappe a year if we sign him for 400K a year.
10 million a year, yes, sir.
Yeah, it's just it just boggles my mind that man can be earning that much. But it's an interesting thing to see, and Paul makes Mbappe not coming unless we make him the highest paid player in the Premier League, at least $1 above KDB. What's Kevin De Bruyne on at the moment? I will actually look that up.
I think 400K maybe.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's roughly the same as Salah.
Finances Club. Let's have a look here.
I think it's 400K. Might be a little bit more than Salah. I'm not too sure.
This is the greatest site in the world. We'll have a look at payrolls for Manchester City. Season.
I think the biggest thing Mbappe said he wanted was 35 mil salary, but it's that signing bonus. So if we could afford that signing bonus,
yeah,
it would be all right.
And we know that Liverpool give very big bonuses. Actually, a lot of our wage bill goes to like paying out those bonuses, because you can make like Firmino would make most of his money off his bonus and not his base wage.
Yeah.
There we go, 400k a year. I mean, you're not wrong, Dan. We go and give him 401k a year. I think he'd be fine with that. It's 20.8 million.
And I mean, I think there's an argument. Yeah. Well, that's what Haaland. So but that's the thing about the Haaland transfer that's so dubious with the not even alleged 115 charges, but maybe allegedly 116 charges, is the fact that a lot of like the way that City use their money is that they put things in the bonuses and incentives and everything else, so they don't have to report it on the earnings. But 24 million as like a bonus is ridiculous. That's to Kevin De Bruyne's entire yearly salary as a bonus.
It's confirmed he has a release clause, apparently, 173 million, but that's not saying that that's only for Real Madrid. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
He's going to go to
Madrid.
Hilarious. He's not staying at City.
Yeah, but still, and Silver's going to go to Bernardo Silva's going to go to Barcelona, I think. Once if Barcelona can sort out money, but
Barcelona, he's going to PSG probably for money.
Really?
Well, that is.
I mean,
that's enough.
Barcelona can't afford him at all. They cannot.
Yeah.
But in terms of Mbappe,
it's interesting though.
I say that's like the one player you break your wage structure for. I don't care what you tell me. But I highly doubt we're going to get him. But it'll be worth it.
We don't really break it.
That is true. You would have to get rid of one of the front men, though. It's likely going to be.
I mean, again, you look at the wage structure there of Thiago. That's 10.4 million a year, right? If you were to give him 400 grand a week, that's 20.8. So essentially, you've just now cleared up half of what you would have been paying him anyway. So Thiago is gone. You now technically save 10.4 million a year on the wage roll. That 10.4 million gets pumped into Mbappe. Now you technically are only paying an extra 10.4 million a year. So realistically, you're already paying it. So why not just get rid of the player that you're paying that to, double it, and get the player in that's going to absolutely sell that in jersey sales alone? With LeBron James being the biggest draw in basketball with his Nike deals and everything, and us now having Nike on the jersey too, and Mbappe being the biggest Nike footballer realistically since Cristiano Ronaldo, really back about 10 years ago. It's nuts. So I think even Nike could come in and contribute with some signing bonuses with that, and he could get signing bonuses from Nike, and he could do a number of other different things. So the realm of possibilities, the fact that we have FSG, and we could very easily, in a financial sense, we could talk it into ourselves to afford Mbappe, which is absolutely nuts. Now, the key of it is the fact that we don't have to actually transfer sign him. We can sign him on a free.
Exactly.
Because if you were going to transfer sign him, I don't think anybody would go near him, because PSG had asked for £250 million easily.
Yeah. And I mean, and also I think if Liverpool sign him, he's only going to be on like a 3-year contract, I think, at 3 to 4 years. I don't think it's anything beyond 4 years. Because I think part of Mbappe, this goes all the way back to Mbappe when we were first linked to him before he signed his contract in 2022 and 2020, is that Mbappe would probably still want to go to Madrid sometime in his career. And I think that, there is an argument that Mbappe could come to Liverpool for like three years and then go to Madrid right after that.
Nah, I don't think Madrid would keep doing the entertaining it. I think this is the last time they entertain it. So if he actually doesn't go to Madrid, we have a shot. But Florentino, that owner, he's like completely different from John. So I feel like this is like the last time this link is going to happen. Because 29, you have Jude, you have Vinny. They have so many like superstars.
But they don't have a striker. They don't have a striker. I mean, they might buy a Haaland. That's the thing.
That's why they're going to get Haaland. Yeah, in like 2 years. And Haaland,
like his agent. Yeah, his agent was asked, does he have a release clause for Real Madrid? And he was like, I cannot confirm nor deny. So that's basically saying, yes, he does. But I just legally can't say it due to an NDA. That's pretty much what they just said. Yeah. And everybody knows that at this point. It's probably as transparent as OJ Simpson saying he doesn't go near LA because he might be standing beside who did it. So let's not get into that. That's as transparent as that.
Yeah, and it's like, if you look at their style of play, if you put Haaland in that Madrid team right now, you're not stopping them. He's like, Mbappe is a left winger at the end of the day, but I think Haaland is like a Madrid type of striker. That's what it seems
Yeah,
like.
somebody that just sits there and gets delivered balls left, right, and center, and has Jude Bellingham sitting behind him and just feeding him sitters on a plate where he'll score 100 goals in a season. Yeah, that's bad.
But Haaland's more of a Gonzalo Higuain striker than a Karim Benzema striker. Like, he's not going to do leg work. He's just going to sit there and just like pass me the ball. I shoot the ball.
Nah, he's not like Higuain. That's a crazy comparison.
No. I mean, like, in terms of the profile of player, because like that's what Higuain did. Like Higuain, like one of the reasons Higuain fell out with Madrid was that his goals started to dry up because they were feeding Bell or Ronaldo or whoever played in that front line. And then they eventually replaced him with Benzema because Benzema was a facilitator and a striker. He could do both. But Higuain was not that. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that he's on the same level as Higuain.
Yeah.
You know, Higuain's the greatest of all time. I'm just kidding. We know Haaland's a much better player than Gonzalo Higuain, but you know that they're the same similar profile player. Like, it's interesting they have Joselu, who's essentially playing as like a facilitator, like a Giroud, playing the ball to Vinny and then him be the main goal scorer.
He misses a lot of sitters though. Like, imagine instead of that guy, Haaland would get like 3 to 2 goals in that league.
Haaland's numbers are ridiculous.
Yeah, they just needed someone that could score for them. That was their only issue.
Paul is asking here, if Mbappe guarantees us winning the Prem and the Champions League, how much is that worth alone? 100 mil? It's definitely worth an awful lot more than 100 million pounds. So winning the Champions League alone is worth 70 million, and winning the Premier League is probably 100 million, I think. Thereabouts.
Though a lot of that would be gobbled up by like winning the cup bonuses, so you'd probably only really see about maybe 50 of that million actually go into like any transfer, any sort of like transfer kitty or.
It's 50 million we wouldn't have had otherwise. That's
true.
I look at it.
If you get
50 million gets you a lot these days.
You get that in shirts and like quick.
Yeah, like I think that if Mbappe, on a business perspective alone, if we take like bias and everything out of it, if we look at it from a purely business standpoint, the likes of Mbappe moving team, so he has an opportunity to move to either Real Madrid or Liverpool because they seem to be the only two teams that are linked with him currently at the moment. Financially speaking, can Real Madrid do it? I think so, but if they did, they'd have to sell an awful lot of their wage structure to do it. The likes of Camavinga, the likes of a Tchouaméni, the likes of other players such as that ilk, maybe even Rodrigo, might be sacrificial lambs in that sense to get Mbappe over, because the deal he'd get out of Liverpool will be different to the deal he'd get out of Madrid. He'd get money out of his arsehole at Madrid without question. But if he was to come to Liverpool, it's two sides of the same coin. Because he can go to Real Madrid and he can sort of reform the new Galacticos with Bellingham and Vinny Jr. and whatnot, and that could be their selling point. But then when you look at Liverpool and the history that's there, it's two of the biggest clubs in the world with possibly the most history behind them in their past. And it's the biggest club, one of the biggest clubs in England, probably the biggest club and most storied club in England, and the biggest club in Spain, along with Barcelona being the most storied there too. It's an interesting concept to look at from a player point of view, because if he looks at it from a money standpoint, how would we possibly compete with Madrid? The only way we probably could is in bonuses. And we could have Nike, who sponsors the kits, pay for a lot of that, because you'd have like Mbappe wearing the LeBron jersey and the two of them are best mates. That would absolutely destroy the internet. Mbappe in a Liverpool jersey would destroy the internet. Mbappe in a Real Madrid jersey is just another day at Real Madrid, in my own opinion. But it's an interesting topic to look at. I think the only way we get him is by signing him on a free in the summer and Nike giving him a absolutely fat shirt deal with a lot of percentages on it so that he makes the money after the fact. And it is something that is hilarious that we are talking about, that it can actually happen. But I see a lot of people saying that it's not going to happen. It's nuts. Keep Mbappe far away from our team. Hate to say it, Mbappe is just too big for Liverpool. Nobody's too big for
Nobody's too big for the club. That's how I look at it.
Nobody's too big for the club. If he thinks he's too big for the club, he's smart enough to know he's not too big for the club, in my own opinion. It's between us and Real Madrid. We're the two big clubs in the world. I don't think it's that.
I think I'd comment.
And then we also have... Yeah, go ahead, Menti. Sorry.
How I look at it is like, if you go to Madrid, right? Think about his legacy. At this point, he's, 25 right now? He literally doesn't have a Champions League. I know the way he is. Like, Mo Salah's like, he got 2 or 3 more years at Liverpool. I think if he comes to Liverpool, it's just a better legacy for him. If he wins a Prem, if he wins a Champions League, it's just going to be way better for his legacy. But Madrid, they're already stacked, and they're going to probably try to get Haaland too if they get Mbappe. So he couldn't probably not be the main man. So we'll see how that goes. We can just hope as fans, like it might not be realistic, and this means nothing. But hey, if he comes to Liverpool, it's just going to make the club better. That's how I look at it.
Listen, we deserve to live in our own delusions at times, and I mean, listen, I'm not saying it's going to happen or not going to happen. But if Tottenham Hotspur think they can win the league, then I can think we can sign Kylian Mbappe.
For sure.
Exactly. There's something that I want to show everybody, and I'm going to share the screen again because this is absolutely nuts. And it's from Josh LFC 1909, and it just shows how absolutely bonkers Trent Alexander-Arnold has been in how he has played this season. So I'm just going to share the screen again, and I'm going to get rid of the brand that's here because this is absolutely nuts. Apologies for this at the moment. We'll get rid of the brand. So if you consider how good Pedro Porro has been this season, he is here. I'll put my mouse on it. He is here. Trent looks like an absolute fucking alien. Look at him. This is the through passes per 90 in the top 7 leagues and progressive passes per 90 in the top 7 leagues. So how progressive he is with the ball and how much he's getting the ball into attacking situations. That is nuts for a fullback. That is absolutely bonkers. I don't know how people still have this debate that Trent Alexander-Arnold is not a world-class, best in the world fullback at this current moment. And I will die on that hill and fight any man that disagrees with me. I'm sure the comments are probably going absolutely awry with this. And as Vaz mentioned, he's otherworldly. And it is. Dan, are you even at all surprised at this point with how Trent has been performing this season, with how he's been supplying assists and even getting goals? I think he's actually come into his own and hitting his prime in the next couple of years.
Oh yeah, I mean at this point, no, we shouldn't be surprised about like what a statistical anomaly Trent Alexander-Arnold is. I mean, even back when he was 17, 18, rotating with Joe Gomez right back, like his numbers have always been like ridiculous. He's always been Kevin De Bruyne, but a right back. And now, I mean, like really, again, the biggest question, and this kind of coincides with a lot of the links and the stuff we've had for the transfer business over this summer, is like, what is Trent's long-term position? I think it'll be center mid, like other people as well. Maybe not like a center mid in the way we think about it. It'll probably be something along the lines of a double pivot 6 or as an attacking 8, but it's like a 10. But I think it'll probably be in some way a double pivot 6 that splits the center backs and plays like the long balls that Gerrard did in that in 13-14. If anybody remembers how Liverpool used to play, Gerrard would be in a 4-4-2 diamond. He would drop between the center backs and he would use his long range passing to essentially go back to front very quickly. That's actually why in that game against Chelsea he slips, Dembele runs through, is because he's between Skrtel and Sacco, and when he slips, he's the last defender, essentially playing as a sweeper and as a midfielder. Thank you.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. And by the way, Dan, this is the picture I'm going to show now of Tsimikas putting weight on the shoulders. I
saw the one you're talking about.
Here now. Yeah, so this is, again, forgive the bad editing. We're trying to work on this now and get this sorted. But this is Kostas Tsimikas currently it's not weight, but like he's not going to be working his shoulders like that and moving his shoulders like that in that position and stretching it that way if he's not probably fairly close to coming back. This is very, very interesting. Possibly could be back after the 2 cup games, in my opinion, because we never heard anything about him actually being injured or even a timeline about him coming back. So I think he could be one that's been kept in the back pocket and nothing has really been said about it at all. So it's very interesting to see that. I am very happy with that myself. It's some very interesting news and I love it. But to move on to a couple of our other topics, is it seems as if we are in the period now with the likes of Salah going to AFCON, and now we have Endo as well going to the Asia Cup respectively. To be honest with you, Jamie, I think they got the asthma inhalers back. That's what we were missing. That's why we had so many injuries. We just had to get the asthma inhalers back. That's what I think. But it's an interesting time because obviously we're missing Salah and we're missing Endo for the next couple of weeks. And Klopp's goodbye message to them was, "I hope you get knocked out in the group stages," which is pretty funny. Considering Salah's last group stage game is the 22nd of January, and we play our next Premier League game on the 21st of January, meaning he could literally be back on Merseyside the 23rd of January. So it's a very interesting time. Now, I hope he wins that. I hope he wins the whole thing. I hope he wins the African Cup of Nations. I think he deserves it. It'll be his sort of last hurrah, I feel, with Egypt before their next one. So it's an interesting one to look at. Menti, I'll ask you first because Dan is clearly very busy with his dinner. Who do you think we'll miss more? Now, look at us subjectively. Endo's kind of come into his own. He's brought an awful lot of stability into that midfield while Alexi McAllister has been injured. Who do you think we'll miss more over these next 4 weeks? The stability in that midfield or Mo Salah's goal scoring ability? Dan has gone missing, unfortunately.
I would have to say Mo Salah's just output. If you look at his stats for this year, it's like absolutely ridiculous. Right now, you probably couldn't name me a better winger than him at the moment. So this is like the moment for our front line to step it up. Like in terms of Endo leaving, Maka is capable of doing that role. Endo has just done it at a high level. So when you get him back, it's gonna, free Maka to go to his natural position. But I think he's capable of doing. It's got to be Salah just because, a lot of people bash Nunez, but he has been missing a lot. But this is probably the time for him to start, earning back those fans and stuff. I do truly believe Luis Diaz is going to step up as well. Jota, you know what Jota is going to do. He's a goal scoring machine. It's got to be Salah.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you. I can't seem to disagree with you. So it's not like I agree. I think either answer is the correct answer. Dan, are you of a similar opinion as Menti? Like I the question I asked, you dropped out a little bit there. I don't know if you heard it. Was who we'd miss more. Obviously, the reason I say that is because Endo has really sort of come into his own. He's brought a lot of that stability into the midfield area, and he seems to be finding his feet, thankfully, and actually putting in solid performances. Now, obviously, what more needs to be said about Salah that hasn't been said already? But in the next couple of weeks, are you of a similar opinion of Menti that we would miss Salah more being the obvious choice, but that Alexi McAllister can come in and play as well as Endo did in the past couple of weeks?
I think we'll actually miss Wataru Endo more than Mohamed Salah because normally every time Salah goes to AFCON, we actually deal with it pretty well. Like when we won the title, I think that's when they had AFCON was going on too, 1920. That's when Chamberlain came in and scored a bunch of goals. And we rejigged the team a bit, and we still did very well, even though we lost both Mane and Salah for that extended period of time. So I think we'll be fine. I'm not saying, any team with a player like Mohamed Salah will most likely of that quality will miss his creativity. I'm eating orange chicken, guys, and no, there's not enough for you because this is my first real meal of the day. So this is just for me only. So you're going to have to deal with me eating for a bit in between takes. I think Endo, I think what we've really missed on Endo and what we've seen his improvement is that his anticipation and reading of the game has just gotten so much better, which I think he was always there. It was just, you could just tell that he just didn't really have pace, kind of like when Thiago first started playing DM for us. And then over the time, he was able to figure out where do I need to be in order to win this ball. And he's been using his brain a lot more than his body in order to get into positions to win the ball back. I think Endo will be missed much more just because of the fact that he's kind of the reason we've kind of went from being like from like peripheral challengers to being the most consistent team right now outside of really City, but because City has De Bruyne coming back is because of Endo, because he allows just so many other things to happen around him. Now, I take Menti's point. I think when McAllister comes back, he will probably fit like a glove and everything else. It'll still tick over, but for me, I think it'll be Wataru Endo just because he's really like made that midfield position his own, and he's actually been the first name on the team sheet when I think a lot of people were doubting his ability to hold down that position long term against like very good teams. And even a game against Arsenal against Declan Rice, 105 million Declan Rice, he did not look out of place on that pitch.
Yeah, it's. I think we'll miss Endo more, to be perfectly honest with you. And something that I want to show everybody here now. I'm trying to find where is he. Oh, not Rodri. 1 second. I'm looking up something here now. Bear with me 1 second, everybody. Rodri. Where is he? Man City should have had this done 5 minutes ago when Dan was eating, but nope. Here we go. So I'm going to share something right now. It's from Data MB, and it's going to show a very interesting statistic on how we are doing at the CDM role at the moment. We'll have a look here now. I'll just jump back in here, take the brand off. And this is an overlay of Alexi McAllister, Declan Rice, and Rodri, who plays for Man City at this current moment. Alexi McAllister is in the blue, Declan Rice is in the red, and Rodri is in the yellow, orange, whatever color that is. I'm semi-colorblind, so I'm sure somebody will correct me on that. But if you look at down here on the defensive actions part, it seems that the man who's due to play the 10 position is doing a better job as a defensive six than the two best defensive sixes in the league. Interesting, that, I feel. Menti, Dan, discuss.
I'm not gonna lie, I've seen that before, and then there's one where they compare him and Declan. That's how I initially saw it. In terms of defensively, at the beginning of the year, you saw like there was a couple of mistakes made, but it's like the team hasn't played together like that. So I think him coming back and him seeing that it works, he just provides something Endo doesn't with that passing. So I think it's going to be great. But we all know Maka could do it, but I'd rather still see him in the left center mid position.
I would too, I think. But what I can't wait for is when Endo comes back and we can push McAllister up a little bit further in the pitch. Considering this is what he does as a CDM, which is absolutely fantastic, I can't wait to see him push further up the pitch. As we've seen, his pass to Diogo Jota in the game against... game against Newcastle was absolutely glorious to watch. To the people saying that we would miss Salah more, I have a bit of trivia for you. I'm going to remove this now and we move back here, and I will stop sharing. Mo Salah has missed 27 games, and I'm sure people have seen this tweet already because it came from Paul Joyce. Mo Salah has missed 27 games, and we have only lost 2 out of the 27 that he has missed. One of which was a Europa League game this season, and the other one was the League Cup against Leicester City. Every other game in the Premier League, we've played 7, won 5, drawn 2. In the League Cup, we've played 11, won 9, drawn 1, lost 1. That loss was against Leicester. In the FA Cup, we've played 7, won 7. And in Europe, we've played 2, won 1, and lost 1. And that was against Union Saint-Gilloise. Or however you pronounce that, USG. I'll pronounce it. I'm sure Dan and his multilingual nature will correct me on that, as he so loves to do.
Close enough.
Close enough.
Belgian's not a real language. It's either French or Dutch. Like, it's not a real language. I'm sorry. Like, this is true. I don't know.
Like Swiss. It's like Swiss.
Well, Swiss German is just like it's just insanity at that point. It's not real. It's not real. Yeah. Let's be honest.
There's Swiss German, Swiss Italian, and Swiss French. I do love it. It's funny. It's a funny little country there in the middle of Europe. I do love Switzerland. Gorgeous country.
I do want to mention though with McAllister that I feel like at times people have forgotten what Alexis McAllister did for both Argentina and Brighton. Even though he does play as a 10 or as an 8, he played as a double pivot 6 with Moises Caicedo. And then for Argentina, he played as a double pivot 6 or as an 8, marauding 8-10, who is essentially the pressing monster for that Argentinian team when Messi was was playing up top. Like, he would essentially play next to Messi and do the pressing for him, like Kevin De Bruyne does for Manchester City. So I feel like at times people forget that like McAllister can kind of do all of those things as well. And this is again why I don't think we'll miss Mohamed Salah so much, because again, like you mentioned, we usually do fine without Salah because we usually rejig the team to be a bit different. So we're able to not be as heavily reliant on Salah on the right wing, who is still a brilliant player. And this is not a knock against Mohamed Salah, but we get to use more players in our build-up and hopefully spread out the goal scoring a little bit more.
Yeah, JB has mentioned that they're absolutely loving the stats tonight. Well, thank you so much. I think it's a nice thing to actually add in, and it's a good metric to put into it. Paul is asking what is the language of Scotland, but he then clarifies by saying Ireland. It is Irish. Dan mentioned earlier Gaelic. Gaelic is an old ancient language that was between Scotland and Ireland and all the Celtic people, but it's actually Irish. Gaeilge is how you pronounce it in Irish, so that's probably where you got it from, Dan. But either way, I knew what you were talking about, so it's fine.
Well, it's the original Britannic languages. So for those of you who don't know, English is not natural to the island of Britannia because English comes from English, and English came from the Angles and the Saxons, who were from Denmark, who came to England during the 4th and 5th century. The original languages were Welsh, Brittonic, Gaelic, Scotic as well. Those are the original languages of the island. Just a fun fact for everyone.
Yeah, we learn something new every day here. Jamie's asked, what's harder, Gaelic or Welsh? Welsh. By a country mile, Welsh.
Welsh don't believe in vowels.
It's just like if you're in Liverpool and you ever feel bad about how, like, I had a friend of mine who made a joke about how he was over in Liverpool and he was growing up as a kid, and his dad brought him down the road to the border for Wales after him really doing bad in a spelling competition in school, and pointed at the first sign he seen and said, "See, you're not that bad." So there's that as well. Haley are coming in with actually some Irish with Conas Atatu, Stephen. For any of the non-linguists in the group, that means how are you? Tommy Gomai, Haley, thank you so much. Gurmila Mahagat. All sorts of languages today. You're getting everything. You're getting stats, you're getting history facts, you're getting languages. God, we absolutely spoil you guys on a Friday. We love it. But that is where we are actually. I lie. That's not where we're going to end. There's one part of the title that I haven't gotten to yet, and it is The Last Dance of Bobby Firmino, who is reported to be looking his team Ahli, I think that's how you pronounce it. Ahli, I believe is how you pronounce it. Forgive me if I've butchered that for any of our Saudi Arabian watchers or anybody that does know the language, those type of watchers. They are looking to loan him to a Premier League club. And we'll just do a quick fire before we finish up for the day. And we'll ask the chat as well about it too. But Menti, yes, no, and why of how you would take back Bobby Firmino.
At Liverpool?
Yes, on a loan for the rest of the season.
Oh, no. You
no.
can't. We have too many.
No reason
I love it. I love him. We already had his farewell. There's no need to bring him back. He might go to like Nottingham Forest or one of those type of teams, but I just don't see it happening with Liverpool.
Him and Divock Origi causing havoc against Everton. I'd love it. Dan, what about you? Quick yes, quick no, and why would you like him to come back? If not, if yes or no?
Would I like him and I do? Well, yes. In reality, no. Not with his little team. Like Minty said, too many attackers. He makes more sense at not even a Notts Forest, but like, even a Wolves. Wolves need attackers because they're how much injuries. And now that Steve Cooper's left Nottingham Forest, we can't sell him all of our Liverpool players. Sadly, we have to sell it to the next Liverpool manager, which is Michael Beale at Sunderland and Gary O'Neill at Wolverhampton Wanderers now.
Yeah, as I know Jamie's mentions here, we always love to bring back old players. Look, I think it's more the nostalgia effect that we all would love for Bobby to come back and absolutely light the world on fire, but we all kind of know deep in the back of our minds that we're like, yeah, it's not going to happen. It's wishful thinking. And Paul mentions here, Firmino to Fulham or Forest makes a lot of sense. I hope he goes to somebody that we play at home later in the season, because that comeback to Anfield, I don't think the place could ever be louder and his song will be sung again, and it'll be absolutely glorious. Whether he comes back in a Liverpool jersey or whether he comes back in a rival team's jersey, I'm quite happy to welcome him back to Anfield with open arms. And Henderson can absolutely go and take a long walk off a short pier. He can go get that's my
okay. So I have a question for you, Stephen Amende. What if would Bobby ruin his legacy if he did a 4-month loan to Everton?
I don't think he's stupid enough to do that.
I don't think he'll do it
personally.
I see why not.
In your hypothetical world, Dan, I think he probably might stain it slightly. I don't think it'll be on the same levels of Michael Owen signing for United, but I don't think it'll go down too well either.
But what if he's just going to Everton because he can come to all the Liverpool games? Like he's like, oh, I can move back to Liverpool. Like I can go see him. I can spend time with.
He can join Tranmere Rovers at that point. Like he can go across the river to Birkenhead and he can join Tranmere Rovers. That's
fair.
That's fair. I think he's going. I think I heard rumors of him going back to Fulham. James. That's something that I heard is probably the most likely. Leicester were looking at him as well. I would love to see him go back to Fulham and get some game time there. He'd be absolutely great behind Joe with alongside Jimenez as well. It'd be good to see there. Bobby to Man United. I don't think he's stupid enough to do that. But it is an interesting time. And sure, look, we're early into the transfer window yet. We're only 5 days in. We're 10 days away from the Kylian Mbappe deadline. So let's hope for this. We'll be doing predictions tomorrow, the Cop Kings, on the pre-game stream. So join us for that at 7:30 UK time tomorrow evening. I don't know who's hosting it yet, but we will have that sorted by tomorrow. But thank you guys so much for joining us. Before we finish up, I just want to ask everybody to make sure to like and subscribe. As at the start of this stream, we're only 80 subscriptions away from 10,000. We really want to hit that 10,000 mark, and make sure you have your notification bell on for all future streams and videos. Jen, as always, you are the star of this stream with your £9.99. It all goes back towards the channel to help us make more content for you guys, and we very much appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching along. Paul, we're not going to have that negativity in this chat. We will be signing everybody. We'll sign Mbappe, we'll sign Haaland, we'll sign the ghost of Michael Owen if we want this transfer window.
Hey, Nat Phillips is like a new signing. Let's just be honest.
Nat Phillips is a new signing, guys. It's all right. And then we have Andy Robertson coming back. It's another new signing. Then we have Stefan Bajcetic coming back. It's another new signing. Look, we'll have new signings out of our arse over the next couple of weeks, but it is an interesting time. Vase Flowers thinks we'll be 3-1 on Sunday. I would love that scoreline just to shut an awful lot of Arsenal fans up. And Kostas Simicas coming out to the Undertaker theme tune telling Saka, you should have killed me when you had the chance. Cannot wait. See you guys on Sunday for the watch along, and I'll see you guys on Sunday as well for the post-game stream. It'll be myself that will be doing both. From myself, from Dan, from Menti, thank you guys so much for joining us. We very much appreciate your time, and I hope everybody has a wonderful Friday evening, afternoon, or morning, wherever you are in the world. Bye-bye.